Good morning, Mr. David Valero from United Kingdom and all the participants from the UK. So it is in fact 11:30 a.m. at UK.
Yes,
Good afternoon,
indeed.
Dinesh Avasti, sir, Dr. Bonita Vishwanath, and all participants from this side of the globe. So every crisis brings challenges and threats to entrepreneurs and their organizations, no matter if initiated by human behavior, natural disasters, or economic mechanisms. At the end of December 2019, the coronavirus, so-called Covid-19, had started spreading from Wuhan, China, to other countries so widely and quickly that on 11th March 2020, as pandemic. As a response to mitigate coronavirus spread and save lives, government affected countries imposed desperate measures of social distancing, widespread lockdown, and restrictions on traveling, movement, and people gatherings. Many aspects of private and public life had to be moved online. Entrepreneurs were not an exception, and they too had to start moving their business activities online. So as the entrepreneurs, their ventures and societies are facing unprecedented challenges. This is why this webinar is to make an awareness about various entrepreneurial opportunities and challenges during this pandemic. In this session is divided into two parts. In the first part, the panel members will spend 10 to 15 minutes to discuss on the topic. And in the second part, it will be question and answer discussion session. So before I hand over the podium to the first panelist, Professor Dinesh Avasti, let me introduce him. Professor Dinesh Avasti, an economist by training, is former professor and director of Entrepreneurship Development, Institute of India, Ahmedabad. He was a professor of strategic management and entrepreneurship at Indian Institute of Management, Lucknow, before joining EDI as director in 2003. Currently, he is the editor of Anveshak, a research journal published by Sardar Patel Institute of Economic and Social Research, Ahmedabad. Dr. Avasti has over 70 research papers and 8 books, besides several research studies on small and medium enterprises, technology, entrepreneurship, to his credit. Areas of his professional interest include development and growth of micro, small, medium enterprises, rural entrepreneurship, and microfinance, cluster development, evaluation studies, social entrepreneurship, technology entrepreneurship, and issues related to the promotion of startups. Dr. Avasti has chaired and has been a member of several committees set up by Government of India, Government of Gujarat, and several non-profit organizations. Currently, he is a member of Advisory Board of BioNest, Department of Biotechnology, Government of India, and a member of the Task Force of Small and Medium Enterprise Policy Formulation of Government of Gujarat. Dr. Avasti has also worked as a consultant to several United Nations agencies like International Labour Organization, United Nations Development Programme, and other international bodies like WS Atkins, UK. He has extensively traveled across the globe in connection with various professional assignments. I request Professor Dinesh Avasti to give his perspective and share his experience on this topic. Professor Dinesh Avasti, please.
Hi Pratap, am I audible?
Yes, sir, clearly audible, sir.
All right. Well, Professor Pratap, my friend of long standing, Vanita ji and friends, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to share some of my casual thoughts on pandemic and entrepreneurial opportunities challenges during COVID. What I propose to do is to just a brief background of what you already told, Pratap, and to just as a background, and then I'll come to the challenges which are there first before opportunities. This will be followed by what were the opportunities during pandemic, and the third section I would like to put some highlight on what is the future, where the opportunities they lie in future. So let us start. All of a sudden, from China to US to India, I mean, all over the globe, this pandemic created havoc. Initially, most of the governments had knee-jerk response. They thought it is a very passing phase which will not do much of damage. India also first we started with 1 day lockdown, then 2 weeks lockdown, and we didn't know how many days, and it kept on increasing and increasing. And today also you have partial lockdown and partial you have removed lockdown. Now, we were not prepared for this. I mean, no government was prepared for this. What happened? Well, suddenly lockdown was announced, the longer one. First casualty was informal sector. People working in homes, then labor, the poor people. In mass, there was an exodus from cities back home to villages all over the country. And it was not only most painful, but it had huge cost, social, economic, both. We didn't know what is happening and how to handle it. Government also didn't know, they didn't have any idea about it. Then there were envisaged that such a big migration will take place. There was a food crisis, there was water crisis, there was financial crisis, every crisis was there. A lot of NGOs and civil society people initially chipped in to provide food and shelter and whatever they could do. So the country was united to take care of these migrants for some time, but it cannot be a long-term thing. Once they migrated back, now what? Industries were closed, businesses were closed, so there was no employment, hardly any transaction except essential commodities. All the factories are locked down. So first thing happened is that entire supply chain was disrupted. Now you have no supply of raw materials, you cannot send your products to your customers. So there was almost not a standstill. This standstill also led to financial crisis because small industries didn't have enough money, they never have enough money to survive. Now once all the payments were stopped, they started facing crisis. They didn't give wages to their workers because they had already left. So, and they also had no money to give wages to their workers. So once you don't have money, there is no demand. No demand, no production. Now Government of India came up with a lot of shops once it started releasing the stranglehold of pandemic gradually, and they came up with 3 lakh crore rupees as support to SMEs. They can take loan. But if there is no demand, how one will take what does with loan? They won't do anything with loan, so there's very little uptake. And whatever uptake was there, bankers were very reluctant to even give money because of their past experience. So there was a crisis of funding, crisis of cash flow with industries, and even today, small industries are not able to run their full shift. Now you have opened up, but there are no workers. Now workers are trickling down gradually, one after the other, after the other, after the other, back to cities. But this movement is so slow that quite a few big players, they are hiring whole train and getting people from Bihar and Odisha. I was reading in a newspaper that people have hired entire plane from Patna to Hyderabad. So this is the crisis which you have now, labor crisis, and you have cash crisis, you have demand crisis. So under this situation, I think it is going to be a long drawn battle. Nothing is over yet. There is no question of getting over. I think it will last at least a year from now, if I am not very pessimistic. Rather, if I am optimistic, it is 1 year or it may last long. Our growth rate has already dipped to 23-24% minus. So there is no growth. Economy is yet to revive. Government doesn't have money. They keep on announcing plans after plans and schemes after schemes, but they don't have finances. I mean, they're not able to pay GST share to the state governments, and the state governments don't have money themselves. So I'm not really sure how fast and how this economy will be revived. So that is a big issue, and this has left us to huge unemployment, huge financial crisis, huge production losses, huge disruption of supply chain, and disruption of entire economic activity in the country, which is gradually coming back in the process. Now, interestingly, once you are locked down in your home and you have no way to go out, I mean, very interesting way what businesses thrive, and that is a very interesting way to look at. You know, I was just trying to see that what were opportunities which were emerging during COVID. So the boom of e-commerce. A lot of people, I mean, they had to buy something. Somewhere, little bit of activity which was going on was e-commerce. Amazon, not only in India but the world over, they have shot up their sales and their turnover. The other was EduTech. I mean, thus there were no classes. All the universities and colleges and even primary schools, even kindergarten schools, they started adopting this EduTech through e-learning. So they will sit, one teacher will be sitting and students will be learning even from my university, where I hold this vice chancellorship. We are teaching students through online. I mean, there is no way they can come here, so online courses are going on. So this was the other field which really got filled. The third was manufacturing and supply of medical apparatus and equipment. Like you had sanitizers, you had production of masks, you had soaps, you had ventilators, you had PPE kits. So all these things, they really boomed, you know, the big way. And not only one, but very small players also started manufacturing sanitizers kind of thing, not PPE kit. But some big ones, they entered into manufacturing ventilators. Initially, there was an acute shortage of all these things. But as time passed, entrepreneurs came forward and they started manufacturing all these things. Then the fourth was delivery services. Now, take home. You could not go to a restaurant. Once the restaurant opened, now just take home. You can order food, and Swiggies and Zomatos, they will be serving, you supplying your food. So delivery services, take away. There's no big basket. Grocers, they came into force very big way. So that was the opportunity which was there. The other opportunity was use of home entertainment. The Netflix, the Amazon Prime, YouTube, because people are at home, what they do. So a lot of films they will watch and a lot of interaction they will do. The other was online gaming. You have time, so you do a lot of new games came into. Of course, PUBG has been banned, but this was one of the most popular game during COVID. The software to connect. For example, is Google, there was Zoom, there were Google Meet, lot of videos, they came into existence, and people started using this as a medium of communication and connect, whether that classes or seminars or webinars like this. A new word from seminars we have moved to webinars. So this was another thing which went ahead. Then cleaning industry, because of lot of COVID, lot of small groups, lot of small young entrepreneurs, they come forward and started engaging themselves into cleaning of waste, solid waste management and waste management, including medical waste management. So that is something which started booming at this period. It will take, of course, I told about Byju's or Vedantu or Unacademy kind of organizations, they are booming. The lack of physical contact or physical education. So then SaaS is the other thing. That is what has come up. And lot of services, software services are being provided online. So these are some of the activities which were booming at the time of pandemic. So though there was pandemic, there was a segment which was basically technology based, or let us say IT based, using IT infrastructure. This was surviving and this was booming a big way. Now this is what during pandemic, where do we go from here? What kind of activities we think might survive? And from that, I think that e-commerce is a long haul. It will continue. EduTech will continue. Gaming, people have now hooked to it. So if no PUBG, there will be some other game or some other company which will come and they will be entering into this segment. Solid waste management, which was in Bangalore somewhere or in Ahmedabad somewhere, now it is likely to become a big game, which I feel. Then e-commerce and supplies, they're also likely to grow. Software as a service, that is which has tremendous scope. Like you have No Engage, Botfix, Druva, Zoho, these kind of companies which are offering lot of jobs where you're sitting in your home or sitting in your village, you could earn money by doing some small contractual jobs. Gig economy is again will be big. On SaaS, it is another variant of SaaS, whether Upwork, Freelancer, 99 Designs. These are the kind of organizations which will have, they have a website. You can go to that website and get some job. They give you job description, they give you time frame, they give you amount of money which you need to sometimes negotiate, but they're there. And the most important activity which I think will be agriculture. Agriculture is going to be a very, very major activity and is going to see a very major change because of nutrition, the type of farming which we do, it will be changed. One of the experiments which has been done in Bihar, where people have young boys, IIT and IIM graduates, they have come and started creating warehouses, micro warehouses in villages. So at the farm gate, they go, they collect the grains, they put in those warehouses, and they have started issuing credit cards against that. So that farmer need not to go for distress selling, but the farmer can go and get money if he or she requires. A very interesting experiment is there. The other experiment has been now with new agriculture bill passed. The other activity which has taken place, I mean before 2 or 3 years back, was that young graduates from IIMs and one from IIT, they came together in Madhya Pradesh. They convinced farmers to lease out their land. It was not a contract farming, but lease out their land to these farmers. Something that they started with about 100 acres, and they said, "We will give you the money which every year you get as an output or as a surplus. That is assured, and over and above that, job for you is assured if you want to do. But for 3 years will be the contract, and we will do whatever you got to do with this land." This 100-acre land, they revolutionized the entire process of agriculture. They went for hydroponics, they went for exotic vegetables, and they made a lot of money, and they were expanding. And the last time I had a class, they had expanded. So there is an opportunity for young people who could come together and really go to farmers who have half an acre, 1 acre, or which is not economically viable. So make a collective. But farmers have to get whatever they are getting today. There cannot be any compromise with that. And over and above, they can get wages of working on the farms. And these people produce whatever they want to. With of course, it has to be environmentally sustainable. And they are doing, these boys are doing remarkable work. They have changed entire process to organic. So they do organic farming, they do hydroponics, there's very little water use. So this kind of changes which are coming in agriculture and agriculture related services, I think that has tremendous scope. With little support from NABARD kind of organizations, I think these boys will be able to do something. So I think I have spent, I have overshot about 3 minutes. I'm sorry, but I thought I will share these things. I stop here, and I will be very happy to answer any questions if there is any. Thank you.
Sharing your experience. Dear participants, we now have our second panelist, Dr. Vanita Vishwanath. Dr. Vanita Vishwanath is a social entrepreneur, consultant, and a mentor to social enterprises. She is strategic and operational advisor for the Jagriti group that includes Jagriti Yatra, a unique 2-week annual dedicated train journey for 500 young professionals that combines instructions on inclusive entrepreneurship on the train and exposure to social entrepreneurs to the ground throughout India. So Jagriti Enterprise Center, which is a rural business incubator for startups in Purvanchal region, that is in eastern Uttar Pradesh. Dr. Vanita was a member of working group on clustering and aggregation for the Government of India in its 12th 5-year plan. Vanita was recognized as one of 3 finalists of the World Economic Forum, Squab Foundation India Social Entrepreneur of the Year Award in 2012, and is a recipient of the International Alliance in 2013. In 2011, she was selected among 11 NGO leaders worldwide as a senior fellow, Synergist Institute, New York. Dr. Vanita received her Ph.D. from University of Texas, Austin, USA. She has published widely on social media and lectured in leading US universities such as LA and Columbia, and presented papers in conferences worldwide. Now I would like to invite Dr. Vanita Vishwanath to deliver the session.
Can you put up that slide on the screen?
Yes, yes. Okay.
Okay. Thank you for inviting me here today. It's actually quite a delight to know so many students are tuned into this. I'm told that this is in spite of all this webinar fatigue that I keep hearing about. So it's very nice to know that. The slide that you're seeing is actually an image of how the institution that I'm associated with now sees enterprise and entrepreneurship in India. You know, this is not a pyramid. We've been sort of told so much about, you know, fortune at the bottom of the pyramid. And I think now the fortune is actually in the middle of the diamond. India is a diamond. And most of middle India is in the center. And this is about 230 districts in the country, which is about tier 2, tier 3 districts, which are the ones which are going to grow. And that's where enterprise and entrepreneurship is going to have to be situated. Poor India, in any case, I've had some 25 years of experience of trying to do entrepreneurship in really poor India. That doesn't actually, you know, go very far or very rapidly. So we in Jagriti have taken, you know, this whole idea of actually building up enterprise and entrepreneurship in middle India by bringing the market from what we are loosely calling rich India downwards and pulling up poor India as a supplier base for the entrepreneurs in middle India. This is approximately the approach we are taking, and things that I will be saying over the next few minutes would be based on this this approach that we've taken. You know, this I won't repeat what Dr. Avasthi had just spoken about the pandemic and so on. We know what those challenges are, what's happened. I just want to take one little case from our work as an incubator and sort of illustrate how we are planning to do this for going forward now. You know, there is one of the things that we have done in this diamond, this green portion that you all see, is the fact that there is a whole range of people there. There are small enterprises. They are also, you know, the upper end of the micro enterprises. So there's a whole range of enterprises who are either stagnating, growing, declining. There's a lot of data that is not available and it's kind of missing. But so we have sort of just taken, you know, individuals and seen where they will go with this. One of the enterprises, and with the idea of pulling up those at the bottom or those at the bottom of middle India as well, and creating a value chain, we started with building with a milk entrepreneur who was actually a small entrepreneur when he started and he started about 5 years back. He was a startup, but he's now got 25 crore turnover last year. Now he has marginally declined, and this is the point. The point is, if you were already at 25-year turnover, the COVID did hit you, but the COVID did not distress you to the point where you can't revive. And it sort of proved quite a bit that you do have to scale or grow to some extent in order to survive, you know, all of these kinds of things, which actually hit everybody, not just a few people. So this is Kothaki Milk. So Jagriti is incubating this enterprise, and the idea of this, you know, it's 4,000 farmers were supported. There were 70 village level centers that are milk chilling centers for this. They started with a 5 crore investment in 2010 on a 5-acre land where they have set up plant and machinery. They have 60,000 liters of capacity for 60,000 liters of packaged milk per day. They're not doing anything close to that right now at the moment, but they do have that capacity. So there really is a good deal of infrastructure. And this is a little bit about the Jagriti way of doing it, is that we do go after entrepreneurs who have some risk-taking ability and have some infrastructure so that, you know, we can build them up to be able to create employment. Now, this is going to go pretty big. Now that they've also got some loans and Some equity is coming through. Some equity is not, Eastern UP is not a very great place for equity, but because they are quite big, they may actually attract it. Now, here you have a small enterprise, and several levels below that, you've got what in English is called mom and pop stores, and they are called kirana stores. Now, what were the fate of these kirana stores during COVID? We all know they started off okay because they were essential goods. So they were supplying in rural areas and so on, and all the people depended heavily on them. But they were the only lifeline. But once it started opening up, some of them had real trouble with the Amazons. And unless you became digital, and this is where Dr. Avasthi's point is extremely well taken, is that unless you are able to engage digitally, all these people are not going to survive too long. So what we are doing is to actually bring these kirana stores under the ambit of this milk supply chain, because they are going to expand hugely. So many of these will be converted, kirana stores will be converted to village level centers, milk supplying centers, and could also be distribution points. Now, this is the one point that I wanted to make. This is the first. The second point I wanted to make was the disruption in the migrant-dependent value chains. Dr. Avasi talked about disruption and value chains, and I wanted to mention the migrant-dependent value chains, and this is where Odisha, where we are speaking today, comes into the picture in a rather big way. The destination areas for Orias, and I'm talking about one district called Ganjam, it's Surat Textile Hub. And in the Surat textile apparel industry, we had 6 lakh Oriya workers. And almost 8, in the data that we've got just now, a good number of them came back. Overall, we, across Odisha, more than 8 lakh workers came back out of a total of about 1.5 crores, which is the numbers that are sort of floating around of returnee migrants. And this is the Surat, there are a good number of them were employed in the Surat textile and apparel industry, and also other smaller industries in Surat. They all had to come back. That textile industry is limping back to normal. Only about 1/3 of the workers who returned are going back. There is no understanding of when it will revive. Again, Dr. Avasti talked about the uncertainty here. Now, what is the opportunity here? We all know that 30% of the migrant workers, whether in Bihar, UP, or Odisha, are going to stay back. That's approximately a number everybody agrees on. But most of these are casual labor. Most of these are sort of not so skilled labor. The skilled ones are still wanting to go back to their jobs. From Odisha, from Bihar, and from UP, it's only the mostly casual labor who are wanting to stay back. And this is an opportunity to skill them and put them into supply chains, and I will call for local supply chains. There's a lot of talk about not having elaborate supply chains where, this is what has happened with the industry for apparel. The Bangalore people have outsourced it to Mumbai. So you've got Oriya people in Mumbai, you've got Bangalore people in Mumbai. So this entire country is in this elaborate value chains where very little value actually is created, because it just gets dissipated throughout the chain. Almost everyone's operating on very low margins. So what bargaining can we possibly have post-COVID in trying to revive this, unless we rationalize these supply chains to make sense for the worker at the very base of it? Now, one thing we also learned from the data is that I want to continue and just simply say that the rural textile industry hasn't changed its infrastructure. I have been there, and it is so miserable. There's a labor safety conditions for workers is still a concern, and there's disease and industrial accidents are likely. So over the last 3-4 months of COVID, lockdown, etc., no attempt really has been made by the industry to change itself in order to provide a healthier and a safer working condition for the labor and the migrant. It's as if nothing has changed. So from that point of view, also, it might be actually quite good to have a Ganjam apparel industry. Any reason why Ganjam has to go to Surat? They're all, after all, skilled labor. So this is an entrepreneurial opportunity where we can have some of these skilled labor set up something in Ganjam itself, and see whether we can start it. It won't happen overnight, but it really helps to bring labor back, keep labor at home, and maybe develop Ganjam in that way and in a much sort of safer way. Skilling, one of the other data that has come here is that I've seen is that, the Narega, this is the Mahatma Gandhi Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme, which was offered to everybody heavily back for the returning migrants. What is interesting is that many of the skilled migrants did not take it up. Now, more research needs to be done as to why this happened, but one of the hypotheses is that they just didn't, once they were skilled, there was a dignity that they felt for the skilling that they said they don't want to do Narega kind of work. And it's also possible that somebody else in the family was doing it. But at least this is only partially true, that the skilling did help them. So skilling has already become aspirational. In a kind of interesting way, it has, so we could really build on this momentum of skilling, of scaling the skilling, the skilled workers back home to create something like the Ganjam apparel. The third point, and the last one I want to make really, is that, there were a lot of this informal sector, and Dr. Awasthi has already mentioned it. These were all subsistence models, even pre-COVID. And now with more collapse and income and employment challenges, they are going to continue to remain subsistence, and it might even be lower income. I doubt if they will actually collapse fully, because they always they're very agile. He talked about the medical apparatus and equipment industry. The very same self-help groups of women created masks en masse. I mean, amazing. This industry across the country developed in so quickly to respond to the challenges of COVID, that it is in fact the agility of the informal sector that we need to build on. And I'd like to mention here that I am a proponent of a hybrid formal-informal model. I actually don't believe in formalizing everything. In most of our countries, it is civilizationally, we are informal people. You try building up formal over and culturally informal, it becomes a very difficult proposition. Number one. Secondly, there is so much asymmetry in information and governance at the grassroots level that to heavily depend on the formal to actually work is very difficult. Already there are so many compliances for MSMEs that they can't handle. So honestly, we really have to innovate as to what this hybridization will be between formal and informal. Certain kinds of things like GST, taxation, etc., we should make formal. But there are other things like where you work and so on, and how you work. We could innovate on that. The work from home has acquired a new dignity actually, and it's there in the urban areas. So it's home-based work for women in rural areas. So let's make work from home a dignified proposition, even in rural areas, and find out how it is we can do that. And the second opportunity is, in fact, the agri sector. Again, Dr. Awasthi has already mentioned the agri sector. There's a lot of complaint about the opening up of the sector and the farm bills and so on. I won't get into that. But what it has done is given opportunities farmer producer organizations and collectives to actually take advantage of that and build all the things like Dr. Awasthi says, warehouses and so on. And individual farmers could probably come together more. In fact, the Prime Minister did talk about that there has to be a huge uptake of farmer producer organizations, and this is particularly advantageous for women farmers. And here you can stitch actually parts of the value chain together. So you can actually stitch together where earlier you were pitching separately. So the entrepreneur who's the aggregator, plus the FPO who is supplying, could actually pitch to investors together. Of course, the laws won't allow you to pitch to the investor to invest in these different instruments in the same way. But we could certainly try to do that. Earlier, NGOs would have to do this. But now I think we can get enterprises to actually service enterprises to actually set up in rural areas who can service all of this, because you would need that anyway. And I think I will stop here and sort of wait for questions.
Thank you, Dr. Bonita Biswanath, for your nice explanation about social entrepreneurship. Our next panelist is Mr. David Valero. Mr. David Valero has completed his MSc in Aerospace Engineering and MSc in Strategic Management from. Coming to his corporate life, Mr. David Valero is presently working as Chief Executive Officer of Forward Innovation, and also he is working as Managing Director at Clearance Bridge Capital. Forward Innovation is an innovative new company resulting from a turnaround. It is backed by a 30 years track record of achievements. They are leaders in industrial and consumer Internet of Things with expertise which spans from drafting the product concept to turning data into actionable insight. Clearance Bridge is a private investment vehicle focused on acquiring and operating small medium enterprises with proven success story. Sir is also having 18 years of industry experience in various organizations like Italian Levy, Accenture, and NTT Data. To deliver his speech. Sir, please.
Yes, thank you, Professor, and thank you, everybody, for having me at this very interesting webinar. So, good afternoon, everybody. So, as for the introduction, my job is basically split into a part of activity into the private equity industry, because I'm leading a very small fund that is looking to invest in small medium enterprises in Europe, mainly UK and Italy. And at the same time, at the moment, I'm leading one of our acquisition that is called Forward Innovation. So I'm at the same time a manager into a company and also an investor. Then there's another aspect that I believe is quite interesting with this webinar, is that my business is split between the UK and Italy. And you may know and remember then in the last springtime, those two countries were the most heavily hit by the COVID. So Italy was the first country in Europe where the virus has spread, and then the UK just follow after. So I've been experiencing a period of threat and also a very high level of uncertainty that led us to experiment different attitude and different approach to the market when it was coming to the response to the COVID. So the conclusion that I arrived to is that the COVID is a very unfortunate event of our times, and it is mainly a new type of disruption, right? So in my opinion, is a disruption exactly as it was any type of technical and technological disruptions that changed the way we are working. For example, social media, they have disrupted every type of marketing activity, or the 2008 and 2009 global financial crisis has disrupted the way companies are thinking to finance, investment, and so on. So every disruption is a big threat. At the same time, it can lead to interesting opportunities if you can understand the disruption itself and react in the best possible way. Think of the fact that as a disruption, this situation is bringing a lot of influence from external factors. So when trying to respond for my own company, I was thinking to the fact that there's a huge component of luck, of fortune into what happened in the past months. In Italy, tourism is super important, as it is in France, for example. We are living on tourism in Central and Southern Europe. So if your business was in tourism, you were very, very unlucky because tourism has been hit in a crazy way by the COVID. If you were working in a company providing web services or online meetings like Zoom, you were super lucky. I don't know if you realized how the Zoom stocks went up during the crisis. I'm quite interested into the medical device sector. And if you look at the medical device sector, you've got lucky and unfortunate companies in there, because if you are producing medical devices into the medical therapy, your business is not disrupted and you keep working in a normal way. But if you are manufacturing and developing medical devices in the range of aesthetic or beauty therapy, that was heavily disrupted, because at least here in Europe, all the aesthetic centers and beauty center, they were shut down. So this is a very strange disruption, because it's global, but at the same time, you may be very lucky or very unlucky. So you need to understand where you are and react accordingly. So at the end of the day, I believe it's very much a matter of being very good at managing uncertainty. Also for the future, because we don't really know exactly what is going to happen in the next 12 months. Take Italy, for example. Italy has been in a deeply bad situation in March and April, and we were supposed to be the worst country in the world for managing COVID, while now the situation in Southern Europe is quite better set than what it is in, for example, France or the UK. So we don't know exactly what is going to happen, and we don't even know exactly the reaction of another external source of potential impact, that is politics. Think of the different ways that politicians around the world, they have reacted. Think of Sweden or United States, where they basically said, you know what, we don't care. The nation will survive, and we hope that things will go well anyway. Or another approach, for example, Italy and UK, where we shut down everything in March and April. So our government decided to get a big risk on the economy by trying to protect people and healthcare systems in a stronger way. So it's very much about uncertainty, right? Because there are factors that are there for everybody, the virus itself, and other factors, politics, and, for example, the way you're managing the labor regulations that are absolutely local. Take the labor regulation. Look at the United States. They've lost millions of jobs, and that's because the United States, the American regulation for the labor is very weak or very liberal, if you like. So companies can just lay down people. This is not the same in Southern Europe, for example, or in the UK as well, where companies in this moment are forbidden to lay off people. So you are not losing jobs, but at the same time, you are not losing jobs, but the crisis is there anyway. So it's just evolving in a different way. So my strong point here is that the better you can manage uncertainty and disruption with your organization, with your business, the better you will come out from the COVID crisis, hopefully very soon. Let me bring on the table 3 areas of opportunities that I see as an entrepreneur in this crisis. The first one is COVID is bringing new needs. You know, market and opportunities are about needs. If you don't have a need, you don't have a client. If you don't have a client, you don't have a business, right? There are a lot of new needs in this crisis. As a company, we are into Internet of Things and electronics. So we realized that one of our solutions relevant to real-time locating systems, RTLS, was incredibly in an increasing demand due to the COVID, because you need to manage people inside offices or factories. And today you want to know more about where people is going, if people is aggregating in a very intense way or not. So if you understand the need as it is changing on the market and you can move fast, you can respond and create a lot of business opportunity for your company and your business. Think of the food at home. Again, France, Italy, Greece, there's a very important food culture over here. And many companies, they just move from being a normal restaurant into being a remote restaurant to provide foods at home. And those that made it, they made a lot of money. So if you recognize a new business need, then you can recognize an opportunity for business. My second point, new way of working. Sometimes I like to say that an opportunity to save money is like an opportunity to make business, right? So I have saved a lot of money in cutting flights, travels. I would have normally flew from the UK to Italy and back many times, at least twice a month. I just stopped flying and started to interact with my people with web conferencing. Recently, we have engaged a new sales agent in the United States. We have involved them and delivered all the training for them to start selling our services and products in the States 100% through remote communication via web conferencing. So this is not selling more, this is saving money and saving time. I haven't flown to the United States for this reason. They haven't flown here. We saved money, a lot of time. We didn't pay for hotels and so on. So once again, if you keep your eyes wide open and you see that the problem of COVID is bringing some possibility to do things in a better way, in a fastest way, in a cheapest way, faster, better and cheaper way, why not? Then my third and last point, this one may be controversial. It is about turnaround opportunities. Within my private equity activity, I like very much turnarounds. It's a great opportunity from the management viewpoint to save a business, relaunch a business, saving jobs, creating new value. Well, it's very unfortunate that during crisis, many companies are going into deep crisis. Some of them will go into bankruptcy. So this is not good at all. However, business is business. And if you are expert into rescuing, relaunching, turning around companies, never mind whether it's a small, medium enterprise or a corporation, this is a time where we may expect a lot of opportunities into the turnaround in the industry that I think is very relevant to a business school and business school students. So those are my 3 points. It's definitely keeping the eyes wide open to new needs, taking the chance to work in a better and new way. We in Europe, we have made, in my opinion, a leap forward of 10 years in digital transformation. That's just because we were obliged to use new digital system that normally it would take like 10 years in order for managers to say, okay, I can do it. Now, I was just forced to do it, and I did it, right? And the third one is turnaround opportunity. So any crisis, any disruption can be sad, can be painful. However, if you put yourself into the competition that business is normally facing when trying to grow faster and having more success, well, disruption is an opportunity. You just have to be very agile, very quick, and being able to look at the market and understand as soon as possible what is happening in order to react. I'll be happy of any question, of course. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. David, for so nice deliberation about the topic. Now we will have questions. The first question goes to Professor Dinesh Awasthi. It is from Jyoti Ranjan Mahanti. He wants to ask, World Economic Forum reports in June that 70% of startups have asked their contract employees to leave. Others who are retained face salary cut. Employees are in little motivation and low morale. How this issue can be addressed in the present context?
Now see, the startup issue is very, very dicey. One should keep in mind that all over the world, almost 90% startups, they shut down within first 1,000 days. So survival rate is only 10%. Now, these startups, why they are startups? Because they have very, very little capital at their disposal. They are technology driven, and they are still creating a base for themselves. They are not the established businesses, but they are just startups, new people who are venturing into business because they have good idea. So naturally, they will not have wherewithal to sustain their employees. So barring very lean workforce, most of the time they tend to tend to ask their employees to go. I mean, I can tell you this is a NASCOM figure for India. During pandemic, 90% of the startups faced decline in their revenues. 40% they just survived marginally, and 4% have already shut up. 70% startups are left with 2 months cash, and this is a study which is 3 months old. So only 70% startups were left at that time 2 months cash. Now, if you don't have cash, what do? Either your employee should be willing to wait for time, and they say, I will continue to work, and when you get money, we get money. But that doesn't happen. So startups have very little opportunity, and as Valeria was saying, every crisis is an opportunity. When in 2008, 10, all Ubers and WhatsApp, they are the product of that time. So they survived. So if you are a startup, if you were a startup in medical devices, if you were a startup in gaming, if you're a startup in entertainment, electronic entertainment, or edutech, you will not have to throw people out. See, after all, Byju's, they increased their turnover by a factor 100%. Not only Baidu, several, I can, even Vedantu increased that his turnover, and an academy increased his turnover. So most of the gaming companies increased their turnover, and they in fact employed more people rather than throwing out. So that depends on which sector you are. But as NASCOM report tells, that 70% of the startups 2 months back were left with 2 months cash. So if you don't have cash, what do you do? And this is not only India, this is globally true. So thank you. If this is supplementary, I think I will be happy to answer.
Thank you, Professor.
Go ahead.
So there is another question from Sam Jyotiranjan Mahanti.
Yes, yeah, please.
The next question is how can edu entrepreneurs can take advantage of the present situation when traditional teaching learning process is forced to remain closed? Can universities and autonomous education institutes scale up by going virtual with technology support, since Government of India is more supportive of online mode of higher education?
See, Government of India has, at least Government of Gujarat, they have already issued instructions that you should go online and keep on teaching, don't stop. Now, as far as EduTech is concerned, there is a huge, even if what I see is, even if you open your schools and physical education is there, a lot of people will continue with these EduTech companies because they are much more updated. They provide you much more recent knowledge, and they teach you, they impart information in a manner which is more attractive to understand, with more graphics and those kind of things, which our traditional way of teaching does not have. So I think that EduTech companies have very good future in the days to come. As far as universities are concerned, yes, university teachers have that limitation that they still are not used to this kind of teaching. So they're experimenting. So they go and deliver class since they don't have a blackboard and chalk, and so they just talk.
There is one more question, the last question.
Yeah.
Sir, I request you to answer this question. This is from Mr. N.N. Ponda.
Yep.
Sir is asking, as the economy starts to reopen, what are the key changes small businesses will need to make to succeed?
Well, first change which small businesses have to make is now they have to be much more focused as far as their basket of offering is concerned. Now earlier they were all very generic kind of thing, but now they have their basket of opportunity has to be very, very set. They have to reinvent themselves in terms of their customer base, because they will not be able to, because they have to compete with online products. So they have to see their niche, where it lies, and they have to operate in those sectors. As far as small businesses are concerned, there will be a requirement. I mean, now in farmer sector is already doing it. In fact, see, in Ahmedabad, in farmer sector is such a dynamic sector, because you go during Diwali and they are selling firecrackers. You go during January, they are selling kites. So they transform their businesses so fast. They reinvent so fast that there is a lot. I mean, there are people who can give you instant discount of 25-30% without bothering for managing directors, because they're decision makers. They can offer you different kind of negotiation if you try to ask for bulk. So they're much more flexible. They're suffered, but I'm sure once economy opens, they will bounce back. And there's a lot more to learn from this informal sector and its resilience than from any other businesses or any corporate sector. Yes, please.
So thank you, Professor Dinesh Awasthi. So, dear participants, we now have come to the end of the webinar. It has been a nice learning experience. Our webinar started with Professor Dinesh Awasthi, who is the former director of Entrepreneurship Development Institute of India, Ahmedabad. Sir has nicely explained what are the challenges during this COVID and what are the different opportunities. The challenges are that India has declined its growth rate to 23%. There is a high rate of unemployment and disruption of entire economic activity and supply chain. The opportunities are in agriculture sector, basically for farmers. Then the opportunities are also there in e-commerce. Companies like Amazon, EduTech, they all benefited from this pandemic. There is also opportunity in delivery services, and the companies like Zomato and take-home delivery services, they have all gained from this COVID-19 scenario. So, Sir has also told about the opportunities in online classes. The PG level, all the classes are going on online, so there is a huge opportunity for them. So, Dr. Vanita Biswanath, who is the social entrepreneur and consultant mentor to social enterprises. Dr. Vanita explained how Jagriti focuses on Middle India with a mission of building India through enterprise. Madam has divided the people in India in 3 levels, that is rich India, middle India and poor India. And she has shown how there is huge opportunity in the middle India with the help of the employment and motivating the local youth to become the entrepreneurs and creating the ecosystem which will support local entrepreneurs through market access and mentorship. And Mr. David Valero explained us about 3 areas of opportunities. These are COVID is bringing new needs and new way of working, and because of it, we are having lot of money saving and time saving. It also makes faster, better and cheaper way of living. There are also turnaround opportunities which are with the help of the leverage of information technology and other technological areas, and that is helping the companies to grow their business. So I am very much thankful to our esteemed panel members, especially Professor Dinesh Awasthi, Dr. Vanita Biswanath, Mr. David Valero. And I am also thankful to all the participants. So my special thanks to all the participants from the countries like UK, and especially some of the participants are also joined from Italy. So thank to you. I am also deeply grateful to our distinguished eminent speaker like Professor Dinesh Awasthi, who has enlightened by his speech, and I take the opportunity to express our sincere thanks to him. His presence today in this webinar has immensely enhanced its importance and is a great source of motivation to us. Thank you, sir. We are deeply grateful to our eminent panelist, Dr. Vanita Biswanath, the social entrepreneur, consultant and mentor to social enterprises, for his enlightening address. Thank you, madam. I'd also like to thank Mr. David Valero for his enlightened speech. I extend my thanks to Dr. Biswajeet Pattanayak, founder and president, ASBM University, for his guidance and support. I extend my thanks to our respected Vice Chancellor, ASBM University, Dr. Kalyan Shankar Roy, for being a constant source of inspiration in this webinar. I would also like to thank our respected Pro-Vice Chancellor, Dr. Falguni Ranjan, for her support and guidance in making this program a great success. I also extend my heartfelt thanks to all the delegates for their active participation in this webinar. I also extend my heartfelt thanks to all the faculty members, administrative and support staff for their active participation and support in this international webinar. So thank you all.
Thank you, Dr. Patra. See you sometime.
Thank you, everyone.
Physically.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Thank you, sir.